Right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I'm your host, Tim, the Powerful Man, Matthew. It feels so weird saying that when Doug's not saying it. It feels quite egotistical. I did it on the last episode, and I'm like, oh, this sounds weird. Tim Matthews, and here with me is our master coach, the sensei himself, Mr. Arthur Magulianiti. Crowd go.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
How are we doing? Hope all you guys are doing well. Hello, Tim.
Yeah. So, guys, we are blessed here with Arthur to have him on this. We've been wanting to get him on here for quite a while, but he's just been so busy, to be honest, with the guys in the activation method and the brotherhood and the new coaches coming on board and all that fun stuff. And a space opened up today. And with the topic that we had in mind, I'm really pleased that he's able to be here because, Arthur, you've taught me a lot on this topic. I know it's something that I struggled with in the past, and obviously the topic is how to establish boundaries with your woman. And the reason why I've struggled with it in the past, and I think a lot of guys have too that I've spoken to, and even guys on the team like Ryan and other people, is I've struggled to establish boundaries because I've fallen into the trap of being a nice guy. I didn't even know, I thought a nice guy was a good thing, to be honest, but falling into the trap of being a nice guy and really just not sticking firm on certain things because I've not wanted to see Amelia or whoever be upset or be hurt or be emotional, let's say. I've kind of taken that on as my own thing and wanted to save her from that, which has then led me to being a nice guy, and it's not a healthy thing to do. And I've never seen it either, right? When I think about the relationship really that I witnessed growing up between my mum and my dad, there weren't really many boundaries that were honored or respected. My mum definitely didn't have any, or at least didn't hold any. And my dad, he held his boundaries, but he did it in a very reactive way, right? So it would come with a lot of shouting or anger, let's say, or frustration. So I never really knew how to do this in a healthy way to land in that nice, sweet middle spot where you can really hold that boundary and hold that space for the woman without getting sucked into her emotional state. And whilst also really breeding that level of confidence in your own decision making, so you're a man that she then admires and respects. And frankly, this is something that whenever we've spoken and I've kind of heard you with Penny, you do really well. So I really love the fact that you're on. I'm sure you can shed some insight and value on this. And obviously we'll ask Penny because Penny may say something different. But if you're listening, Penny, shout out to Penny. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
It's a really interesting topic because so many guys have an issue with this, and it all really boils down to, well, not only, but a large degree to wanting to avoid that conflict that they think is going to come from sticking to their guns about what it is they want or they need or needs to be done. And so, you said it early on, a lot of the guys will try maintain the peace. And by doing that, of course, they give away the leadership. They give away their boundaries because then, they can be taken advantage of. And I'm not saying that their partners are allowed to take advantage of them, but, you do flow to the minimum resistance. And so if their partners aren't feeling any resistance because the guys are out there to avoid the conflict and just be agreeable, then it's a slippery slope. And then at some point along the lines, as we see with many of the guys, is they give up leadership completely because they don't want to have that conflict. They don't want to deal with that conflict. And sometimes it's because, the guys come back from work, they've made all the decisions, they've done all the leadership, and then they come back home and they're just, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to relax. I want to chill. I want to have my beer. I want to watch some TV, whatever it is. And so they just let go of that leadership of themselves, of the relationship, and then just to maintain the peace. So yeah, it's a big issue. I see it with a lot of the guys that we work with, and a lot of the times is because the guys themselves aren't clear on what is their boundaries or being able to articulate it.
Great point. Yeah.
so what is important to me, and where are my lines? And yeah, it's not all about always being black and white. No relationship is black and white, but it's being able to articulate, hang on a second, that's important to me, and because it's important to me, having that mutual respect between the two parties, that this is important to him, give him some time, and vice versa, understanding what's important for your partner and allowing for that to also occur. And this is not obviously a one-sided thing. Both parties should have clear boundaries, that allow them to do what's important to them. And obviously, it all starts with the self, having the boundaries to fully fill up your own cup, as we've often spoken about, just allowing each party to really do those acts of self-love, which is going to really put them in good stead down the line, so that then when the relationship comes along, when the two parties are relating, they are at their best, not their worst, not their most exhausted, not the most frustrated. And it starts with understanding your boundaries, keeping to them, and really focusing on yourself first before flowing into the relationship.
I love that. It's a great point. So yeah, the first step here is to know what your boundaries are. It reminds me of I don't want to talk too loudly in case Amelia just storms in and says, "Hey, that's not how it went down." Well, this is my version of how it went down.
Oh, go on, you powerful man.
I know. We're in a great flow, Arthur. We're in a great flow. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going for dinner with my parents tomorrow night. Amelia's out with the friends. So I thought, oh, cool, great opportunity. We're not going hiking. I'm going to invite mum and dad out for dinner. And I was in the car with her today, and we were coming back from the gym, and I'm not too sure where to go. I think we love Indian. I might go to the Indian. And she's like, "Hey, no, you can't go there," because it's one of her favorite places to go. And I think in the past I would have gone, all right, okay, I'll choose somewhere else. But I said, look, I'm going for a meal. I want to go where I love. I might go there. Turns out, I chose to go to Thai because it's where mum and dad wanted to go. But again, just that boundary, I think in the past I would have become passive, like I said, and placated to please her. And then as we got home, she said, "Also tomorrow, then can you drop me off at my friends at 7 p.m.?" I said, "Well, no, because the table's booked for 7:30, and we're going for a drink before, and I've booked the place to go for a drink at 6:30." And she said, "Well, no, you need to drop me off at 7. Don't be selfish." I said, "Look, I'm going for a drink before with my mum and dad. The place that we go to, I love the beer they do. I'm going to have a beer with them. And we're going there at 6:30, so you get to figure it out." And obviously there's a little bit of tension for maybe a couple of minutes. And, a few minutes later, she's like, "Oh, did you see that house I sent you?" And she just goes straight back to just being connected, right? And again, I think in the past, I would have just been like, oh, yeah, wanting to save her, wanting to please her, wanting to be like, yeah, okay, I'll move that around. It's no big deal, really. I can do it. But I also know what the other motive, or not motive, but the other underlying theme of that is, should I have done it that way?
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting you mentioned the tension. That's the key. It's being able to sit with the tension that's created without trying to get it to go away, or to avoid the tension, because you mentioned that you stuck to your guns, right? There was tension, and that's where a lot of guys think, oh shit, I got to get rid of this tension. But if you stick to your guns and you've made a good point, then it dissipates. She like, oh, okay, fine. I can't push her. I want to come up with another plan, and then it got resolved. But so many guys will try to avoid that tension because it's uncomfortable. And it's not just tension in relationships; it's tension with goals. I've got this goal. I'm here and I want to go there, but I don't know how I want to do. So there's this tension that builds up, right? And in order to get away from this tension, a lot of guys will just reduce the goal to make it easier, instead of sitting with the tension long enough for it to resolve for the next logical step. So yeah, that's an interesting one, because it's not just avoiding the conflict, it's also avoiding that tension, and it's two different things as well. So that's quite an interesting thing as well. Yeah.
I mean, so the first point, like you said, is understanding what your boundaries are, what's important to you. So Is there any advice you can give to the guys listening as a quick way of how they actually identify what is important to them, like where their boundaries are?
So, so here's a couple of ideas, I guess. Just one is like, what are your relationship rules? Okay, think about what is acceptable, what isn't in your relationship. And yes, we can go down to all the way to the values. So like one of the things with me and Penelope is like an unspoken rule is just like we don't swear at each other. I know there's a lot of relationships where when there's a fight, there's the f you and this and that and that. And for me, that's like, there's no space for that in my relationship. There's no need to. I don't see that. So that's one of the unspoken rules. We don't swear at each other, right? And so I would say that's one boundary. Okay. Another thing might be, okay, it's also an agreement. This is like when we fight, no one walks away kind of thing.
Mm,
We
that's a good
sit
one.
until we resolve, until we resolve it, because some people have got used to, and once again, from learning from their parents, one guy, one of the girls or whatever will get pissed off and walk out the door. Well, no, actually, you want to resolve it, stick there. So that's bordering on boundaries and rules. But I guess like maybe for a boundary for me would be, okay, like between this and this time is when I work on myself. And it's because
Mm-hmm.
this time is when I need to work on myself, because later I cannot do it for whatever reason, whether I've got calls or whatever. So that's got to be my boundary. So don't come along, and obviously you're not like demanding or whatever. You're sitting down and you're creating a plan together with your partner, because like I said earlier on, she's also going to have stuff, or he's going to have stuff that he wants to do, right? So, you know, getting clear on, this is what I need to do, this is why I need to do it, and then holding firm to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for me, my morning routine, my alpha rise and shine, whether it's 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever it is, that's my time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I hardly let anything ever come in the way for that, because I know if I don't do it then I can't do it later.
Mm.
So self-care, healthcare, all those boundaries around there. Also, importantly, and this is where a lot of the guys also have a problem with, is doing things that they love outside of the house.
Mm. It's
You know,
interesting. Ben was just talking in the last episode about the importance of social circles with other men and accepting invitations and having clean fun with them and so on.
yeah. So I mean, it's one of our needs to spend time with masculine, like in masculine energy, and so that's our good friends. Social and being social is really important from a health perspective. There's a lot of research coming out that if you're stuck in your home on your own, that's really bad for you health wise,
Mm.
not just emotionally but physically. It's quite scary, and so we need to be getting out, and our partner cannot be the only person that we are relating with. That's really unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we need to have other people that obviously give us different things, like our good friends. And so having that understanding that, yes, I'm going out Thursday, or I'll go out Thursday evenings, and yes, and obviously within the rules of the relationship, I'm not going out and being silly or whatever. I'm having good, clean fun. That's my time with the boys. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as long as that's not every night, okay, as long as also that she has the same right to go out with her friends,
Mm-hmm.
that's cool. However, it is important for you to be able to get out of the house, to go spend your time in nature, to go spend your time with your friends, to go spend time, playing your sport, whatever that is. Okay? As long as obviously there's also time in the relationship, quality time with your partner,
Mm-hmm.
so that she never feels, well, if you're going there, you're not spending time with me.
Yeah, yeah, it's got to feel fair, yeah. And Mark raised a great point when I did the Facebook Live introducing him to the communities. And he said, yeah, there's two questions that Bonnie and I asked each other when we formed the agreement in the relationship early on. And that was, what would I have to do that would make you leave?
Mm-hmm.
And what do I have to do that would make you stay? And
Interesting.
yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's so simple. But from that, I had a
Yep.
clear list, right, of the things that
Mm.
he would do that would make her feel loved and attracted to him and want to appreciate him. And also a list of things that if he did, they would drive her away. And I guess
Mm.
they're the boundaries right there and then, right? If each person has those written down, then you know
Yeah.
straight away where the line is.
Yeah, and that's also quite important to figure out why is it a boundary for the other person?
Mm.
Because like for you could have been brought up in a specific way that doing a certain action means nothing, whereas the other person, that may mean completely different. And so,
Mm.
like you're saying, well, it means nothing, I'm just doing this. But for the other person, it means a complete disrespect, or it can mean a complete, like, just pushing the person down, making them small. And so, yes, find out what their boundaries are, but also why. So you can really understand what it means for them if you step over this boundary.
Mm.
That gives you a so much better understanding of it. Not just otherwise, it's just like a line.
Mm.
If you understand why, then you can think, oh, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
That really makes sense, and I want to be really careful about that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of an exercise Amelia and I did a few weeks ago now. We had to write down our needs. What are our needs just overall, right? Because obviously there's a whole host of needs that a human being is required to have met, both by themselves and in a relationship. Like you said, you didn't say these words, but loneliness kills, right? So there's certain needs that you cannot meet on your own that can only be met in partnership with another person. And part of this was to write down the needs, but then also ask, and what does that provide for you?
Yeah.
Which was awesome because as Amelia was going like through adventure. She said adventure. She said a ton of different things: space, time on her own, chatting, just random things that I didn't even know. It was a great way to even get to know her a bit more. And also, as I went through it for myself, it was a great way just to get to know myself a bit more as well. Which was great. But then, like I said, the real gold in this was, what does that provide you with? Because then that gives real perspective and reason as to why you want to do this for that person.
Yeah, I love that. So let me ask you a question. So like a lot of the guys come up and they say, like, I don't know what I need. Like they're never really giving themselves a lot of giving this a lot of thought. And usually it's like, well, as long as I've got sex, I'm good, which is not the full picture. Okay, and so, okay, you're a pretty aware guy, but how did you go about creating a comprehensive list of what you feel you need? Is it like you just tapped in to yourself? Is it like you did some research? How did you come up with a comprehensive list?
Yeah, it's a great question. So obviously we've been working with that intimacy coach for quite a while now. And it all came about when we had what Amelia calls the meltdown, right? And we had an argument a few weeks ago, and I just couldn't shake it. And what I came to realize was it had nothing to do with the argument, and what it was about. Just to back up a moment, was that every week we've got a check-in to write for the intimacy coach. And I felt like it was always me that was saying, hey, we're going to do the check-in. We're going to do the check-in. It was always me that was pushing for us to do the work together. It was always me. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to take a step back from this. And I'm just going to see if Amelia suggests, hey, should we do the check-in? And when she didn't, and then I brought it up and went to do it with her, she was late for something. We were sat in the kitchen. She was doing other things, multitasking while we were going through it, which obviously triggered me even more, right? At which point we had the meltdown. And what I came to realize was it had nothing to do, what it had everything to do with were my needs were not being met. My needs for growth were not being met. And it terrified me to think of the idea of being in a relationship with somebody where we didn't grow together, where it stayed the same. And the way that it all came about and all these other needs was she gave me a worksheet, in fact, to work through. And obviously you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Yeah.
And I think we were speaking about this at the Alpha Reset. So how she described it to me was like a ladder. Yeah. And she said previously what people think is that within Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you elevate from one need to the next. So you meet that need. I think it's the need for survival or something. It's kind of food, shelter, warmth. Then it's kind of psychological needs and so on. It goes up. There's kind of 5 levels. And what was previously thought was that you meet the first level, then you go to the second, then you go to the third, and the top needs like transcendent needs. But in actual fact, what happens if you imagine it like a ladder instead of a pyramid is when you're climbing a ladder, you have one foot on the bottom rung, one foot maybe on the 4th rung, a hand on the top one, a hand on the middle rung. And that's the same with these hierarchy of needs. We've got a hand in each of them, needing them all to be met at many different times. And within each of them, there's a whole list of different needs, from desire to fulfillment to acknowledgement to appreciation. So I'll share the list with you. And guys, if guys listen, if you want to get the list as well, just head over to the thepowerfulman.com/bonus. We'll put it there for you guys. So from that gave me like a blueprint of, right, wow, I didn't realize there are all these needs. And I didn't. You'll be blown away when you see the list. There's tons of needs that I never even knew existed. So that really set the foundation. And then she asked us to ask one another, cool, so what are your needs? And once you've already kind of opened up the doorway a little bit by seeing all of those, it just gets your mind going and racing. And then when you're in the conversation, I'd recommend, if you go through this exercise with Penny, for example, or even the listeners, we gave ourselves half an hour each. And how you do it is you'll say, okay, so what do you need? And then the other person will respond, I need adventure. Okay. What else? What does that provide you with? And they'll keep going. And then when they finish, thank you. What else do you need? They'll share, they'll say, thank you. Thank you kind of, puts a full stop at the end. What else do you need? And you keep going. So, like I say, we gave each other about half an hour. It wasn't enough time. At the beginning, when she said, hey, I'm going to give you half an hour, we were like, half an hour? Oh my God, that's so long. In the session, we did it for like 3 minutes, and it seemed like an eternity. So when she said, right, we'll give you half an hour, we thought, well, we're going to struggle to come up with things. But yeah, we finished the time, and went upstairs to get in the shower. I was shouting things back down. Oh, and I need this, and I need this. It was great. And I wrote all Amelia's down, and she wrote all mine down. So now we've got like a blueprint, right? Of, we know exactly where the target is and how to hit it. So a lot of the dates I've been planning for Amelia lately have been around these needs. So adventure, we're going wild camping next weekend for 2 days. Connection, so I've just been hanging out and chatting with her, and it's had a huge impact on the relationship. It's been great.
Yeah, well, it's clarity, isn't it? It's really understanding yourself, number one, but also obviously your partner. And then, as you say, from there you can build on that, because if you don't have that, how do you know? how do you move forward? It's just like, well, okay, what do you want to do today, kind of thing, and that's so shallow. But unfortunately, if you haven't done the work, that's the level you're going to be operating at, for a large part of it. So awesome.
And the key thing is, once you've got the list, it's then about maintaining the standard to those, right? So, which is kind of the second point, articulating the boundary. So once you know what your needs are, which is what the first point you said, the second point is most guys don't know how to articulate what their need is, or articulate the boundary, right? And this is the key, because it's one thing knowing what you need. It's another thing to then actually stand firm in that and be able to do it in a way whereby it doesn't push the other person away. It doesn't create a distance, or it's not reactive. So, I mean, how do you do that? Have you got any tips around that? Because I've heard you do it a few times, and I'm like, wow, that's because you remain really calm when you do it, which is great. I love it. Or at least when I've seen you remain.
So yeah, I think, and I think this is a result of the training, coming through this program as well. As a client before being on this side of the screen, it was just like being able to share your truth, right? What's true for you, without feeling like you're going to be judged, without fearing you're going to be judged, because what happens on the other side is not really up to you, but sharing your truth with love and kindness. Because you can share your truth like a hammer, and then it's just going to push the other person away.
Kind of like what my dad did. Well, it wasn't even his truth, but it'd be so reactive that
or you share it with love and kindness, because as we know, it's not so much what you say, it's how you say it. And so I think when you're coming from, this is really important to me. How can I articulate to the other person so they can understand how important it is for me, without needing to get triggered about it, and stick to your guns, right? If there is a misunderstanding there, if the other person hasn't accepted that, then you just keep on talking, right? And this is why, and this is why, and this is why. But it also helps for you to be vulnerable. In other words, letting the other person in. Why is that so important to you? Because some things are easier. Like, I've got to work out now is an easy thing to say, but certain other things may require you to be more open and reveal more about yourself, which obviously that's what the relationship is about, is being completely transparent with each other.
Yeah, and then Doug's spoken about this a few times, and the way he suggests to do it is to say, let's say it's working out, and let's say that your wife's giving, or your partner's giving you pushback about doing that. I think he said the first step is to acknowledge, obviously, hey, look, I appreciate that you're frustrated right now. It's really important for me to work out, because when I do this, it means I've got more energy for our kids. It means I've got more energy for you, and I can be a better husband for you. And also, it's really important for me to feel in shape and feel confident and be the best role model I can be for our kids, which is kind of like what you were saying there, to share more of yourself, right? And it's scary. I've done that, and it's scary at first, right? To communicate in that way and do it in a way whereby it doesn't feel robotic. But it's like anything: the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and the more you find your flow within it. And the women love you for it, to also communicate in that way. They don't always show it in that particular moment, but it's very the reaction that you'll get, the pushback. It's kind of like, it's a way to extinguish the pushback, right? It doesn't mean that she'll completely then agree in the moment and say, okay, cool, go work out. But, she'll understand the importance of you needing to work out. So there's just, you're able to stay together easier, even whilst maintaining the boundary.
Yeah. And the interesting thing there as well is that you said, it's kind of difficult initially. But that's the irony. That's the level we should be conversing and relating at. It's just that we haven't been doing it the right way, kind of in inverted commas. That's the way we should be talking, at that level, that level of honesty, that level of transparency. Because anything less is not what we want. It's not the desired goal. We don't want to be holding back. We don't want to be like slowly treading forward. We want to be fully in. 100% both sides. And completely open, honest about ourselves, where we at with the other person.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's so simple, yet it's made so complicated because of the charge that people often feel with it. Yeah, I mean, just imagine being able to communicate that way from the beginning, right?
It's liberating.
It's the foundation for, the guys talk about intimacy and connection. A lot of the guys that come through and come into the program, you'll know this, Arthur, although they end up having way more sex, a lot of them just want to feel way more appreciation and intimacy. Sex is great, and it's those little words, it's those little messages of "I love you." It's the excitement that she has when you walk in through the door and she hugs you and she means it and she's there, and how she looks at you in her eye, and all of that. This is the foundation for all of that.
Exactly. It's really, well, yeah, there's nothing more to be said. That is the foundation for it, and that's the way through to building greater intimacy, greater depth, greater connection. It's got to be on the back of that transparency and honesty. If you're too scared to go there, then you're not being honest, and you're going to be building up stuff, potentially even resentment because things are not going the way you want them. But if you're not willing to articulate it, you can't expect to receive it. And that's what builds frustration, resentment. We sometimes have expectation of others without articulating it, and then we get pissed off with them because they haven't delivered on something that we wanted, expected, but didn't tell them about it. And so it also comes down to leadership. It comes down to communication. It comes down to the whole triad that we talk about within the Powerful Man. And so that's the path. That's the way.
I love it. Arthur, wow, thank you. I've really enjoyed this. I think the listeners, will have got a lot of insight, I believe. And guys, the invitation is just to try it. I think the first step you could take here is, what would I have to do in order to make you stay? What would I have to do in order to make you leave? Start to understand some boundaries there. If you want to take it a step further, you could do the needs exercise that we spoke about there, with really getting clear on what your needs are and what it provides for you or provides for your partner. And then it's just a case of honoring those, right? And articulating when you do want to maintain that boundary, articulating with love and kindness, like Arthur was saying, why it's important to you and how it then also has a positive effect on your family as well, right? And the effect from that is real intimacy, a real foundation of intimacy that, to be honest, is the key to having a really fulfilling and rich relationship. And if you want to get access to Neve's document, head over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus. We do change out the trainings often, so I'm not too sure when you're listening to this, but head over there anyway. There's definitely some value, get some great feedback on those trainings. Arthur, again, thank you. It's been a real pleasure. And guys, until next time, thank you for listening to The Powerful Man Show.
Cheers, guys. Thanks, Tom.